sitting here in a blind, which y'all know this is not my favorite way to hunt. But as you can tell, it's raining, and it's supposed to get storms today. Yesterday there was 4 gobblers in this field, and they stayed on this hump up here, and there was just no way to crawl to them. There was no way to get to them. So we came in here. It was supposed to rain. They called for rain all day. They were in here for 4 hours yesterday, within a 100-yard area on this hump, and they just would not move off this hump. And so I'm hoping that they'll ease their way up here again and start strutting. And I'm hoping that they'll get up on it up here. But I watched these gobblers yesterday, and they stayed up on this hump for quite a while, and they was calling for rains all day today. So it's not my favorite way to hunt, but let's take that blind up and pop it up and on that hill. And that's what we did. So we just got up here on this hump, and then I seen them fly down right down here this morning real early. I couldn't, the camera it was too dark. But they flew down early, 2 of them, and it's the same 2 from yesterday. And I started calling on this tube call. They gobbled a couple times in this rain, and then they started slowly working up this way, and it took about an hour. So it's been about an hour. I'm just gonna leave this record. I don't know if he'll pick it up or not. Holy cow. Look what spurs on that thing. I don't know if y'all can see or not. Strut Zone gobblers. We love them, we hate them. We love them for the fact they teach us a lot about turkey hunting, but we hate them because they can be some of the toughest turkeys on the planet to hunt. Now when we talk about Strut Zones, we're talking about a breeding ground. We're talking about a common ground, I call it. A place where a gobbler goes up in the day. Sometimes he gets there about 9, 10 o'clock. Not always. Sometimes he gets there earlier. Sometimes I've seen him get there in the evening, if you can hunt in the evenings in your state. But he gets there up in the day sometime, and he'll stay there for sometimes the rest of the day or a long time. He'll strut, and sometimes he'll gobble on and off, and he's just there in his common ground or his breeding ground. And that's where he's picking up his hens at. Well, especially in open farmland, you know, when you get into your Nebraskas and your Illinois, your Iowas, a lot of your open farmland, Kansas, where it's just really tough to move on turkeys. You know, I've always said that I think that's some of the hardest turkeys on the planet to hunt. Them eastern turkeys that is in that type of country. And I know everybody wants to think that their turkeys are the hardest to hunt because it makes us feel good when we get defeated. You know, a lot of the southern guys, the deep south guys, they'll say we got the hardest turkeys to hunt. Then some of the northeast guys, they'll say, well, we got the hardest turkeys to hunt. Guys around here, well, we got the hardest turkeys to hunt. And then you have some Florida guys, oh, we got the hardest. Everybody wants to think their turkeys is the hardest turkeys to hunt. But in truth, they're all hard to hunt because of the terrain that they live in and how you got to hunt them. So they can all be tough. They're all a tough bird to hunt. But I think still to this day, some of the hardest turkeys to hunt is them open prairies, open flat ground, open hardwoods, big ag fields, field turkeys, or open wood turkeys, where you just don't have the mobility to move around like you do here, say in the mountains, or around here in some of the eastern hardwoods, where you can crawl around, slip around, and have the mobility to slip around sometimes and get in his bubble. You can't do that sometimes in these big open countries. So what do you do when you're faced with a gobbler that you just can't move on. You just can't get anything. You just can't get close enough to him. You can't move anymore. But yeah, you'll hear guys like me, and you'll see these other guys moving on these turkeys. You're like, man, I just feel left out because I can't do that. Well, here's how you hunt them. Here's how you hunt them type gobblers that you just can't move on. Whether it's in the mountains like this, or a lot of times in them open situations, in them open hardwoods. When they get into these strut zones and they get into these grounds, and you find a turkey, and sometimes you'll find a turkey that does this 3, 4, 5 days in a row. He'll get in a certain area and he'll gobble, and he'll gobble a few times, and he's just there. But you can't move close enough. Well, here's what you do: let him win the battle. You ever heard the old expression, you know, you may win the battle, but you won't win the war? Let him win the battle. I've actually walked away from these turkeys many times. Leave them gobbling. You're like, oh man, walk away, what are you talking about? You're walking away from a gobbling turkey? That's right, I'm walking away from him, and I'm letting him win the battle. And I'm going to mark where he's doing all that gobbling at. Whether he's 70, 80, 100, 150, 200 yards away from me, I'm going to mark where he's at. And I'm going to go back in there the next day, and I'm going to push in to where he was doing all that gobbling. And I'm going to be patient, and I'm going to wait on him. Because the chances of that turkey coming back the next day goes way, way up high. Because that's his ground. That's his breeding ground. So I'm going to get in there, and I'm going to wait on him and be patient. Sometimes he'll come in right off the roost. Once he hears you up there doing some soft calling, once he hears that hen that he thinks up in his breeding ground, if he's roosted 75, 80, 100, 150 yards away, many times that's about where they're at. If he hears you in there calling, sometimes he'll fly off the roost and come straight to you, and you'll be done early. But a lot of times, it'll be a while before he gets there, because he's just doing turkey stuff. You got to remember, he's on turkey time. He's flying down, he's strutting a little bit. And maybe if he's got hens right off the roost, he'll be with them for a little bit. He'll strut, he'll pick around, he'll feed around. He's just out there doing turkey things. But somewhere up in that day, somewhere up in that mid-morning or early afternoon, he's going to go to his common ground. He's going to go to that strut zone. And what you're going to do is you're going to be waiting there on him. Instead of hanging back here where he was at the day before, you're going to get in there and just wait on him. And I don't care if this turkey gobbles off the roost 100 yards away from you. I don't care if he's 100, 200 yards up on a hillside away from you. I'm not going to him. I'm going to sit right there. And you're like, man, you know, you'd think you'd want to get up, get close to the roost, maybe get it. No, I'm going to sit right there in his common ground. I'm going to let him do his turkey things off the roost, and I'm going to sit there and wait and be patient. Sometimes you got to wait an hour. Sometimes I've sat as high as 4 or 5 hours waiting for a gobbler to come back into his breeding ground. But them's the days that I usually pack them out over my shoulder. So you're going to get on in there the next day, and you're going to wait. And you're going to be patient, and you're going to wait for him to come back in to that common ground. Now once I'm set up and I'm in position, I'm going to start calling, but I'm not going to call loud. I'm not going to get boisterous. I'm not going to cut and yelp and scream at this turkey just to get him to gobble off the roost. I'm going to call soft. I want to be that hen that's just moved into that area off the roost. I just want to be that hen that's moved into his common ground, you know, just like hens do every day. And I'm going to call just like a hen that's content. So I'm going to do a lot of soft calling. Even if this turkey is up on the roost gobbling hard at me, I'm going to just be that hen out there that's just moved in. So here's the type calling that you want to do when you're set up in position. If you have 2 calls with you, say if you have my little slide box, or you have another call like a slate call or something, sound like 2 hens. That little soft calling, letting them think that hens or them hens is up in there. Many, many times I've seen gobblers come in early and be done by 7 o'clock. And I've seen them, you know, come in there mid-morning, late afternoon, but me be sitting there all that time waiting on them, and me be packing him out. So no matter how long you have to wait in his breeding ground, it's worth it to sit there and wait where he was doing all that gobbling at. Something you want to train your ears for, especially in these strut grounds when you're in them, is spitting and drumming. I know a lot of us like to hear that gobbling. We like to hear him gobble. And sometimes he will gobble, and I have seen him gobble all the way in, to a strut ground. But a lot of times, especially on older turkeys and high pressure turkeys, you're not going to hear as much gobbling. But you will hear that spitting and drumming. So when you're setting up in these common grounds, you want to listen and have your ears kind of tuned out there 60, 70, 80 yards for that spitting and drumming, because a lot of times that's what you're going to hear. That way you're not taken by surprise when he just pops up out of nowhere. And that way you're sitting there and you're waiting, and he's not going to show up way over here. He's not going to show up way out here out of surprise, and you can't move. So make sure you're tuning your ears in to listen for that spitting and drumming out there, especially in these strut grounds, because that's what he's doing most of the time. When you're setting up in these strut grounds, make sure that you're set up in a position where you can have good mobility all the way to your left and your right, where that turkey cannot get by you whatsoever. Where you can move with his head goes behind a tree, or his fan is hit, his head's hid because of his strutting, and you wait till he turns around, that you can move just like this, or you can move all the way over here. And a lot of times if you're set up and you've got stuff, around you, you've got brush around you, you've got limbs around you, you've got sticks, a lot of times they'll catch you by surprise and you'll have to watch them walk away. And man, that's really heartbreaking. Or you'll try to force movement and he'll see you and then he's out of there and you've done all that work for nothing. So make sure you set up, against a good tree with nothing out in front of you, and set still where you can have good mobility to your left and your right, where that gobbler cannot get around you without you being able to get a shot. Strut grounds can be a tremendous way of letting him win the battle for the day, but going back the next day and winning the war. It can be a tremendous tactic, and I've done it so many times over the years, and it really will help you, especially, like I said, in that open country where it's really hard to get on turkeys and move. Get in there and call real soft. Get in there where he was doing all that gobbling the day before. Man, you can't beat these strut ground gobblers. So just another way that you can be successful this coming season, especially when you're hunting places where you don't have the access to move a whole lot. Get in there this spring and hunt them strut zones when you find them, and I'll tell you what, you will be more successful this coming turkey season.